Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. This is my eyeshadow palette collection and declutter video for 2019. I'm not really planning on decluttering many, maybe just a couple items, but I'm going to run through each palette, give you like a quick little 1-second review. I am in no way, shape or form trying to rub in how many palettes I own. I love eyeshadow, it's my favorite step of makeup and it is where I buy the most amount of products. A lot of these items were purchased with money that was gifts or even palettes that had been gifted to me myself. You know, whenever I buy palettes, I usually sell things in my collection that I don't want and use that money to purchase new products so that I can review them for you guys. So I'm not trying to rub in how many palettes I have. I know that it's excessive, but eyeshadow is an art form to me. It's my favorite step of makeup and I don't think I'll ever stop purchasing eyeshadow palettes. So with all those disclaimers out of the way, I am decluttering maybe a couple items. Please do not ask me for me to send them to you because I already have someone in mind that they're going to go to. This will be an exceptionally long video, so grab a snack, a drink, and let's get into it. So most of my palettes are over here in little storage containers. And I do have quite a large number of palettes over here as well. So let's dive into it and start going through them. First up, I have these two palettes by Huda Beauty. These are two of her mini palettes. I have the Electric Obsessions and the Emerald Obsessions palette. So the Emerald Obsessions is a part of her Gemstones line and this is what it looks like. I absolutely adore this palette. I think it is an amazing green toned palette and it is a perfect pocket palette to have if you're looking for a particular color scheme, being green. I also have the Electric Obsessions palette, which looks like this. I have not dived in as much to this one. I think the colors are really good and the formula is amazing. I just struggle to create a cohesive look with this palette if I'm not doing like a super bright look. So I don't dip into this one as much, but I love the formula and I would be interested to try more of her mini palettes. I have three more Huda Beauty palettes which I have talked about in my recent haul video. I have the Huda Beauty New Nudes palette. I absolutely adore this one. I have the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette, which I have not used yet, but it's also beautiful. And I have the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remastered palette, which is also absolutely stunning. I really love Huda Beauty's formula and I'm definitely interested to get more of her mini palettes. But for now, I have all three of the big palettes that she has released. Moving on to Colourpop, I have quite a few palettes. I have the My Little Pony palette by Colourpop. This was a limited edition palette and I'm not too sure if you can get this. I absolutely love the tones of this palette. I love the mint greens and the purple colors. It's a beautiful palette and I'm very happy that I own it. The Cute AF palette by Colourpop. This is probably my most used and abused palette. I used to use it basically on a daily basis. I haven't picked it up in a while, but it's still a staple in my collection. I have the Kathleen Lights Dream Street palette. I've used this maybe twice. The formula is different to the other Colourpop palettes I own in my opinion. And it's not my favorite, but I do really want to support Kathleen Lights and keep the palette in my collection. Next is the Colourpop I Think I Love You. This palette is really good. It's more on the cool tone side of things, but sort of sitting on the fence of neutral. I really like it, and it is one of my favorite palettes at the moment. And then finally, I have the All I See Is Magic palette, which was their Christmas palette for 2017. I don't dip into this as much as I should, but it is a beautiful palette and I'm really happy to have it in my collection. I have two palettes from Urban Decay. I have the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, which looks like this. This is such a beautiful palette and so versatile. These green shades here are absolutely beautiful. It's super sturdy and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a one and done type of palette. This is absolutely beautiful. I also have the Urban Decay Back Talk palette, which is double-sided. So it comes with blushes on one side and eyeshadows on the other. I really love this palette, and for a while it was my go-to palette that I was picking up every day. It creates such a beautiful sort of pinky neutral nude look, and it is really sort of, you know, looking for the right word, not versatile, but you've got the blushes in here. You can use these as highlighters, and it's sort of like a one and done type of palette. And if you want something that you know the formula is good and you can create like the same look all the time, I definitely recommend this one. Next, I have 3 palettes from Ace Beauty. So first I have the Classical Paradise palette, which is absolutely beautiful. It is such a stunning palette. This color here is absolutely just beautiful. It is like such a unique gold color. I then have the Paradise Fallen palette, which is honestly one of my favorite palettes of all time. It is just such a sort of like purple palette. It's beautiful. I love creating an all gray look with these colors here. I just love how that turns out. And these 2 purples are just ridiculous. Such stunning colors. And last from Ace Beauty is the Blossom Passion palette. I love creating a super pink girly look with this. This color Peony is honestly amazing. I really shouldn't be swatching, but this color is just too pretty not to swatch. I love this palette. It is so beautiful, and if you're looking for a pink palette, I would definitely recommend this one. It's hands down one of my favorite pink palettes of all time, or favorite palettes in general. Ace Beauty, if you're wondering what brand these palettes are from. I have 3 palettes by Juvia's Place. I have the Zulu palette, which looks like this. This green and blue shade is really hands down the standout of this palette. Just some absolutely banger colors. It's not my favorite palette in terms of the color scheme. It is definitely a rainbow palette, and you know, you don't really have a dark matte in here other than this brown, and I find it difficult to create a cohesive look with just this palette. It's more of an accent palette for me. I then have the Douce palette, or the Douce palette, which again is a really unique color scheme. You have some really stunning shimmer colors in here, just absolutely amazing. I love Juvia's Place shimmer formula. And I also have the Magic palette by Juvia's as well, which again is such a beautiful palette. I'll just see if I can get the whole palette in the frame. That is what she looks like. She's absolutely beautiful. You have some really stunning shimmer shades. That's really where Juvia's Place shines for me, is their shimmer shade formula. So I have 3 palettes by Tarte. This is the Tarte Passport to Paradise palette. This was a Christmas palette that I got in a Christmas set. I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile because I'm unsure about it. I then have the Love, Trust and Fairy Dust palette. The packaging on this is absolutely amazing, and it's just a standard neutral palette. I have the Clay Play Original, which is just a bunch of matte colors. This was one of my first high-end palettes, and the formula is really impeccable, so I am going to keep this even though you cannot get it anymore. I have 2 palettes by Australis. I have the Girl Boss palette and Girl Boss palette, and the Neutralized palette. These aren't my favorite formula, but I am going to keep them because they're good for reference. I really, really like the Australis Kaleidoscope palette. I did declutter that one, but I think I'm going to have to bring it back into my collection at some point because I really like it. A couple random palettes that I only have one from each brand. This is the Suva Beauty Block Party palette. This is one of my favorite formulas of all time, and I really want to get my hands on the 2 other Suva Beauty palettes that have been released. It's just a matter of when I get around to it. but this is such an amazing formula. Suva Beauty is such an amazing brand, and I honestly love this palette. The mattes in here are just absolutely impeccable. They are amazing. They blend like a dream, and even like this, you know, shade, it's a really hard shade to formulate, and it blends so beautifully. I also have this palette. This is the Grease Pink Ladies palette by Solar Look. So this is obviously a collector's item. I don't use this one a lot. When I first got it, I dipped into it all the time, and I used it in conjunction with the Huda Beauty Gemstone Electric palette. This is a beautiful formula. It doesn't have the ingredients in here are a little bit, I'm not sure how to word it, but they don't have like the stick to it that some shades do. So they look beautiful, but to get this effect on the eyes, you do have to use a little bit of a glitter glue, because they do not really have that same stick that some shades do. But you know, Solar Look is an indie brand, and I think they did a really good job on this palette, and it is a collector's item. I'm happy that I got it, and it's definitely staying in my collection. I also have this Natasha Denona Mini Lila palette. This is a new addition to my collection. I absolutely love the formula, and I'm excited to try it more from Natasha Denona. I have 3 palettes from Rimmel. I talk about these all the time. My favorite one is the Jewel Rocks edition. I also have the Crimson edition, which is a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Cherry. And I have the Violet edition. I really love the formula of these palettes. If you're looking for a good drugstore palette to try, then I would definitely recommend anything from these Magnify Eyes range. I have 2 palettes from Fenty Beauty. This is the Moroccan Spice eyeshadow palette. I don't get as much use out of this as I would like, but it is a beautiful formula. And it is going to stay in my collection because I paid a lot of money for it, and I want to get my use out of it. Next is the Fenty Beauty, what's this called? Kilowatt Foil highlighter palette. This is more of an eyeshadow palette than a highlighter palette. I really haven't touched this at all. It is practically untouched, and I think I'm actually going to pass this along to a friend. Hopefully they can get more use out of this than I could, so that is going to go. I have 3 palettes from Kat Von D. Obviously I know how everyone feels about this brand. I'm not going to declutter these items because I really like the formula. I'm just going to not use them on my channel anymore. So this is the Fetish palette. We then have the 10-year anniversary palette, which was the first high-end palette that I purchased myself. And I also have the Pastel Goth palette, which looks beautiful, and I will never get rid of that. So those are my 3 Kat Von D palettes. I won't be purchasing any more palettes from Kat Von D in the future until things change, but I already have these ones, and I'm going to continue to use them off camera. I have 3 Jeffree Star palettes, which I've talked about all the time. I have the Blood Sugar, Beauty Killer, and Thirsty. I really love Jeffree Star, and I want to complete my collection by getting the 2 palettes that I'm missing before he releases anything else. So I think that will be one of my next orders off of somewhere. From Revolution, I have the Emily Edit The Wands palette. I absolutely love this palette. I think the color scheme is such a beautiful color scheme. It does take a little bit of work to use this palette, but you know, it's nothing that I'm not prepared to do, and I'm really happy that I could pick this up and support Emily. I also have the Revolution Pro, what's this called? Regeneration Trends Mischief Mattes. This is a rainbow matte palette. It is absolutely beautiful. The formula is the best that they've ever done. I have this new palette called the Creative Volume 1 palette. I've used this once and the formula was not my favorite. I'm going to continue to test it out and see if it is worth keeping. I have the Soph X Revolution palette. I'm not going to show you the front because it's literally a mirror, but this is what the palette looks like. It's got some really nice, rich tones in here. I used to have the original palette, which I also want to pick up and add back into my collection. I have the Emily Edit the Needs palette, which is a really good everyday palette, and I've found myself reaching for this quite a bit. And within the Revolution brand, I also have this palette from Obsession, which is such a beautiful palette. It's a collaboration with Belle Jordan, and it is really, really stunning, and the formula is actually really, really good. So I think that is all my Revolution palettes. I used to have obviously a lot more. My whole collection was basically Revolution, but I decluttered them all, which I do regret. A couple palettes I do regret getting rid of, but yeah, I think that's all the Revolution palettes I have, so let's move on. From Folklore, I have two palettes. I have the So Hot palette, which is absolutely beautiful, and I have the Sweet as Honey palette, which is my personal favorite. These colors are absolutely stunning. Super, super beautiful. They are more of a like light wash of color, but obviously if you build them up you can get that intensity. So I really like Folklore. I'm really excited to try more from the brand. I have a couple mismatched palettes. I have this one from Profusion. Again, not my favorite. The pinks in here are a little bit hard to work with, but these green colors over here are absolutely beautiful. They swatch stunning. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I haven't played around too much with this palette. I think the brights are a little bit hard to work with, but the neutrals in here absolutely amazing, and I would definitely recommend testing Profusion out if you haven't yet. I also have this little palette from Catrice. This is the Ultimate Chrome palette. These are some of the most metallic colors I have in my collection. Unfortunately, because it is just a palette full of metallics, I don't get to reach for it that often, but it's beautiful. And if you're looking for a accent palette of shimmers, and when I say shimmers I mean like super metallic chrome shimmers, I definitely recommend that one if you can pick it up. I also have the NYX Love You So Mochi. I love the formula of this. It is like a squishy formula, if you can see. Like, it is, I don't know how to describe it. It's a bit weird, but it's quite pigmented, and I love me some shimmers, so I'm always down for shimmers. Again, I don't reach for this too much, but it's a palette that I enjoy having in my collection, therefore it's going to stay. I also have this palette from MCO Beauty. This is an Australian brand. This is a super affordable palette. I need to dip into this more because it's beautiful. It was super cheap. It came out at Christmas, but it's stunning, and the formula is, you know, quite good. Like, this was like a $10 eyeshadow palette, and look at these shades. Like, it's beautiful. I think one of the pans is coming out. Yes, this one right here, it's coming out, but you know, you don't really tip your palette upside down, so I'm doing a terrible job at swatching anything, but you guys get the picture. From Too Faced, I have 3 palettes. I have the Chocolate Gold, which is my favorite Too Faced palette and one of my favorite palettes of all time. I love it. It's a staple in my collection. The shimmers in here are out of this world, and the matte formula is just impeccable. I definitely recommend this to anyone that's looking for an everyday palette. I just picked up the Pretty Rich palette. which I'm excited to give a go. And I also have this palette by Too Faced, which is the anniversary palette. I really don't dip into this one that much, but it was super expensive. It's beautiful and it's a collector's item, so I'm going to keep that as well. One of my biggest categories is BH Cosmetics. I have quite a few palettes from them. So first I have the Carly Bible Deluxe Edition palette. I did have the original. I purchased the deluxe. Both of them are now out of stock. Limited edition, you cannot purchase them anymore. This is such a beautiful palette though, and I will continue to keep it in my collection and use it. I have the Take Me Back to Brazil original. This has a combination of mattes and I'm not going to say shimmers because they're the most lackluster shimmers I've ever seen in my life, so I'm going to say satin, but it is an amazing palette and such a beautiful formula. They recently came out with the Rio edition, which is all shimmers. I love the formula of these. I haven't used many. I've used that beautiful green and I cannot wait to put that beautiful bright orange on my lid. I love this palette so much. The first BH palette I ever got was the Galaxy Chic palette. This was one of the first palettes I ever got in general. You can see I've made some real dents to these shadows. I will continue to keep this palette forever because it has such sentimental value for me. I have the Royal Affair palette, which is such a beautiful, beautiful palette. It is my palette of the month at the moment, but I'm really struggling to use it because I went on holiday and I didn't wear makeup for like 3 weeks. I have the BH Weekend Festival, which again is such a beautiful palette. Oh no, is this my palette of the month? This is my palette of the month. I always get these two palettes confused, my bad. This is my palette of the month. And I'm still struggling to use this because I went on a holiday, I didn't wear makeup for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. This is the Silver Garni collaboration palette. Beautiful formula, and I'm really loving playing with this. I have the Zodiac Love Signs collection palette, which is beautiful. I did a look using these blues up here and it was absolutely stunning. And then I have the Zodiac Original. I will pick up the Zodiac palette when the mini palettes that they're releasing. I will pick up my star sign when we get to it, but I don't really feel like picking up an individual palette for everyone else's star sign because that's a bit weird. So I will pick up my star sign when they get to it, but I love these big Zodiac palettes. They're absolutely amazing. Next is my Clara palettes. I talk about these all the time, so I'm not going to touch on them too much. This is the Marquee palette, the Malibu palette, and my personal favorite, the Bondi palette, which is probably my favorite palette ever. So that is from Clara Cosmetics. Next is Sports Girl. This is another category where I used to have basically every palette that they made, but I decluttered most of them from my collection because I found that the formula was starting to go down a bit. Recently they've picked it up like immensely and now their formula is better than ever. But I was buying every palette that they made for the sake of it, and the colors I wasn't using, so I decluttered all of them except one, which is this. And now I've started buying more of their palettes, increasing my collection again, and I'm so happy that I did that because now I appreciate every single palette from them that I have, and I'm not overwhelmed, you know, with like how many of them I have. So I have this one. This is the Everything's Rosy palette. I absolutely adore the color scheme of this. It's beautiful, but you cannot get this one anymore, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. I have this little Sports Girl Beauty Wild Watermelon Quad. You can still get this, I believe. It is beautiful. It is like literally the only quad I own, and it is such a unique color scheme. I got it basically for these two bright shades because I didn't have anything like them in my collection, and I'm gonna keep this palette for a really long time because of that fact. So I keep knocking my tripod. I'm so sorry. Next is the newest palette that I have from them. I have not used this bad boy yet, but this is what it looks like. Beautiful. I have the Stars in Her Eyes palette, which I absolutely adore. The formula in this is impeccable. And then I have the Allen's Freckle palette. This is probably what kicked my love for cool tones, like what started my love for cool tone colors. I love this palette. It's one of my favorite of the year so far. And yeah, so those are my palettes from Sports Girl Beauty. We're almost done with this video, you guys. I'm so sorry it's so long. So I did have another palette from Too Faced that I forgot to talk about. This is what it looks like. It's the Life's a Festival palette. I don't think you can get this one anymore. I mainly keep it because it has some really unique duochrome colors that I don't have anywhere else in my collection. So I really want to keep them. Next is the Manny MUA Life's a Drag palette. This is one of my favorite formulas, and I'm really hoping eventually that I can pick up his holiday palette from Christmas just passed, but it's just been like bad timing and I haven't been able to pick it up. I'm hoping it's still in stock eventually when I get around to ordering from our Aussie retailer, and I can pick it up because I really love his formula. Next is the Violet Voss Flamingo palette. I tried so hard to get this, and in my last declutter I said the same thing that I'm saying now. I really struggle to create looks with this palette, and I don't know why, because I love color, I love shimmer, I love stepping it out of the box, and I just really struggle to look at this palette and create a color a look because of the color story. And I don't know why, because I have so many palettes that are rainbow that are similar to this that I do not struggle with, and I really struggle with this one. I'm gonna keep persisting though. It's such a beautiful palette, and yeah, I don't know, this palette has survived so many declutters, it's not even funny. Next I have this Pat McGrath palette. I showed this in a recent haul that I did. This is so hard to open with one hand. It's not funny. I'm busy holding a stack of palettes so that they don't fall over. This is what the palette looks like. I'm barely showing it to you guys. I showed it to you in a haul. Obviously that's staying. I also have this Desert Queen palette by Mecca Max, which I showed in my last haul. I have this palette by Beauty Creations. This is the Anna palette. There is a dog hair in here, which is so beautiful. I absolutely love the formula of this palette, if I can get it in the frame. I love the formula of this palette, and I'm definitely going to buy more of these Beauty Creations palettes when I get around to it, because the formula is impeccable. I have the Be Perfect, I don't know how to say this brand, Carnival palette by Stacey Marie. I'm sure you guys have seen it before. It is a cult favorite here on YouTube and on Instagram as well. So I have a few palettes from Chi Chi. I have the OMFG Shocking Bright eyeshadow palette that looks like this. I have the Celebrity Countess Elegant and Timeless palette, and I also have one of their big boy palettes called the Freedom, Love, Create, and Express Yourself palette, which looks like this. I don't know if I'll be able to get the entire thing in the frame. Let me just wiggle my camera around. That's what she looks like. Beautiful palette, beautiful colors, super big, and if you're looking for like a one and done palette, definitely would recommend that one. My last category is Morphe, and I have 3 Morphe palettes. So I have the Jaclyn Hill palette. I love the formula of this. I also have the Morphe Boss Mood palette, which looks like this. I love this palette. The colors in here are right up my street. And I have the James Charles Artistry palette as well, which again, right up my street. Such a beautiful palette. I think that is all of my palettes. Oh no, I also have the Sultry palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. So that is that one. I love this palette. So that is all of my palettes. I will talk to you quickly about these things that I've got my palettes sitting in. They are just letter organizers from Kmart. I have 6 of them in total, and I use them to store my palettes in. Anything else that doesn't fit in those, I just stack against the wall over here, as you saw. So I'm gonna lay all my palettes out and count how many I have, and actually I'm gonna go through my maybe pile quickly. Forgot to talk about it on camera, but this is the Sports Girl All About That Shade metallic eyeshadow palette. It's barely used, and I'm actually going to pass this one along as well. So in total, I'm getting rid of 2 palettes. Woo! Okay guys, so this is my palettes laid out on the floor. Roughly, I have 93 palettes, which is way more than any one person needs. Looking at this collection, I would say the majority of it is drugstore, which makes me feel a lot better. You know, we still have some pretty expensive things in here. Huda, Jeffree Star, Pat McGrath, Urban Decay, Luna Beauty, you know, what else? Too Faced, but majority of it, we've got BH, Chi Chi, Sports Girl, Stylist, Rimmel, like Revolution, Juvia's. Most of it Colourpop. That's a dog bone, by the way. This is where the room that I film in is also my cat's bed, and my dog has all his toys in here, so it's quite messy. But these are all my palettes. I have 93 roughly, because I laid them out and I just like counted them row by row, and obviously they're not perfectly in rows, so could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, but I decluttered 2 palettes, so woo, go me. But yeah, I'm really happy with this collection. For me, this is curated, because I used to have a lot more drugstore palettes that I just was keeping for the sake of having them, but I feel like everything here has a purpose for being here, and yeah, I'm very happy with it. And this is my collection for 2019, early 2019. We'll do another one of these late 2019 and see how it has changed. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.